To connect a WinForms C# application with a SQL Server database, you'll need to follow these steps. 1. Set up the SQL Server database. 2. Install the SQL Server Client Library, if not already installed. 3. Create a C# WinForms application. 4. Use ado.net to establish a connection to the SQL Server database. 5. Execute SQL commands to interact with the database. Let's go through each step in detail. Step 1. Set up the SQL Server Database First. You need to have a SQL Server instance installed and running. You can install SQL Server Express or a full version of SQL Server. Create a database and the necessary tables you want to interact with from your C# application. Step 2. Install the SQL Server Client Library. Ensure that you have the SQL Server Client Library installed in your development environment. This library is required to connect to the SQL Server database from your C# application. You can download and install the SQL Server Data Access Components, SQL Server DAC, or use the NuGet package manager in Visual Studio to add the system data SQL client package to your project. Step 3. Create a C# WinForms application. Create a new WinForms project in Visual Studio or any other C# development environment. Step 4. Use ado.net to establish a connection in your C# code. Use ado.net classes to establish a connection to the SQL Server database. The most critical classes you'll need are SQL Connection, SQL Command, and SQL Data Reader using System Data SQL Client. Private string connection string equals data source equals your server name. Initial catalog equals your database name. Integrated security equals true. Private void connect to database. Using SQL connection equals new SQL connection string. Try connection. Open catch exception X. Message box. Show error connecting to the database plus X. Message. Replace your server name and your database name with the appropriate values for your SQL Server instance.